What if for the next little while you could pause everything and just color with me? No fast forwarding, no rushing, just real time coloring, soft music, and the simple joy of watching something beautiful come to life. So grab your markers or your pencil colors, maybe a cup of your favorite drink, and let's sit down to create something beautiful. Hi there, I'm Revati, and welcome to RP Shutterbug, where it's all about fun, colors, and lots more fun. And today we are going to do exactly that. Today's video is part one of a two-part coloring series, and I have been really looking forward to working with this beautiful Lovers in the Air stamp set by Simon Says Stamp. Now, this one is part of their latest Heart to a Heart release, and I absolutely adore the images on this set. They're sweet, charming, and just perfect for this time of the year. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, I felt this was the perfect opportunity to showcase these adorable images and the cards that I'll be creating with them across the series. Now, there are coordinating dies available for this set, which is wonderful to have, but for today's project, I really wanted to keep things clean and simple. I'll start by stamping the images and the sentiment directly onto an A2 size card panel, no extra layers or no die cutting required, and letting the coloring be the main focus of our project today. There's something so satisfying about the simplicity, just ink, paper, and colors. Now, I did place my A2 size panel onto my stamp wheel, and then you will see that I have my grid transparency in place just to make sure that everything aligns perfectly. Watching those stamped lines slowly transform as we build layers, adding shading, and bring in beautiful tones to help create that depth and dimension. And by the end of this video, you'll see how all those little coloring decisions come together into a finished piece that feels cohesive and full of life. Usually, when I'm coloring stamped images, I love stamping them in VersaFine Onyx Black ink and then adding a layer of clear embossing powder. It gives the lines that beautiful shine and a slight raised edge that I really enjoy coloring against. But for today's card, I decided to switch things up a little. Instead of going with that glossy finish, I chose a softer matte look and stamped my images using an alcohol marker friendly ink. Now, since I'll be coloring with alcohol marker, this just helps prevent any smudging or bleeding. A little tip here is that if you're using any kind of pigmenting for your stamping, I would definitely recommend heat setting it before you start coloring. That extra step can save you any accidental smears or keeps those stamped lines nice and crisp. Now, once I was happy with the stamping, I went ahead and used the A2 chunky A2 scalloped rectangle die, again by Simon Says Stamp. I chose the second largest die to cut out the framed panel for my card front. I actually like to die cut the panel before I start coloring. That way, if I happen to mess up something, I can simply restamp it and cut another panel without feeling like I have wasted all that time coloring. Now, it's a small step, but it really gives me peace of mind before I begin adding all those beautiful layers of colors. And now that everything is prepped and ready, we can finally move on to the most relaxing part, bringing this image to life. For today's coloring session, I'm using my absolute favorite Ohuhu alcohol markers. I really enjoy working with these because they are very beginner friendly, but still they blend beautifully. Now, I have had this set for over 5 years and I absolutely love this. This particular set comes with both brush tip and fine tip nib, which gives me a lot more flexibility while I'm coloring it. I mainly use the brush tip for most of my coloring since it allows for a smoother blending and softer transition between the shades. The fine tip comes in handy when I need to get into those smaller areas or add a little bit of more controlled detail to my images. Now, before I start laying down any color, I always like to keep a small strip of cardstock off the side. Now, I use this to test out my color combinations and see how the shades blend together. I take my time to experiment with all the shades and all the color combinations before I get into the actual process of coloring. Sometimes the cap color can be a little different from how the ink actually appears on paper. So, this little testing strip really helps me make that confident decision before committing to the image. Now, for all the greenery around the bench, I decided to use three different shades of green. I started with the darkest shades, adding dark shadowy effects on the outer layers of the greenery, then slowly built in with a mid-tone and finally blended everything together with a lighter shade. Now, using three tones really helps create dimension and prevents the greenery from looking flat. You could also add tiny dots using either the darker shade of color that you use or the midtones. That'll give more of a grainy effect, which gives an illusion of texture and depth onto your colored images. Now, I focus on placing the darker shades where natural shadows will fall closer to the base of the plants and tucked into overlapping areas, and then I blend everything out with the lighter colors. Now, when it comes to the bench, I wanted to create a soft wood grain effect. So instead of using just one shade of brown, you will see later in the video that I bring in a few shades of browns. Again, just like I did with my greenery, I will start with the darkest shade, followed by the mid tones, and then blending everything together using the lighter brown. Now, for the browns, you will notice that I will do those in stroke like manner just to give the natural lines and texture of the wood. Well, I must say I didn't overthink it, just simple light flicking motions to suggest grain of wood. It's amazing how a few subtle lines can instantly make a bench feel more realistic and dimensional. For the background here, I imagined a colorful cityscape in soft, beautiful pastel tones. I kept the buildings light and airy so they wouldn't overpower the focal image. These gentle colors create a dreamy atmosphere and help keep the overall card feeling romantic and sweet, which is, I feel, perfect for the Valentine theme. And then the balloons that you see here on the stamped image, I use the same color families as the cityscape but deepen the tone slightly by going uh, lightly darker and richer with those shades. The balloons stand out even more and draw your eye upward. It creates a nice contrast while still keeping everything cohesive and harmonious. I really love how all of these little color choices, be it the soft pastels in the background, the deeper tones of the balloons, the layered greens in the foliage, everything works together to create that balance in the design. And I think this is where I'm going to pause the talking and just let you enjoy the process. I'll turn on some relaxing music so you can really soak in the colors and the blending and all those little details coming together. This is honestly my favorite part, just quietly watching the image slowly come to life. So sit back, keep coloring along with me if you'd like, and simply enjoy the creative moment. I'll meet you again at the end of the video where I'll share a close up look of our finished card and also chat a little about what's coming in part 2 of this coloring series. See you in just a bit. I hope you're still here with me because I did make one small addition to this card panel. After I finished all that beautiful coloring, I stepped back to look at it. I realized the skyline area felt just a little bit empty. It was beautiful, but it needed something to tie everything together and give the panel a more cohesive look. So I decided to stamp an additional sentiment right over the skyline. That little touch really helped balance the design and draw the eye across the entire panel. Once I was happy with that, I adhered the finished panel onto a top folding A2 size card base. And of course, I couldn't resist adding just a bit of sparkle with my shimmer pen because a little shine always makes me happy. I also added a tiny red heart sequence in the center of the bench for that extra sweet little detail. And just like that, we can call this card done. From start to finish, this project took me about 30 minutes to complete, and honestly, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I love how the soft pastels, deeper tones, and that little finishing touches all came together into something sweet and romantic, perfect for this season. And this is just part one. In part two, we will be using the same stamp set in a slightly different way, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I truly hope you enjoyed slowing down with me and taking these few minutes to simply create. There's something so special about real time coloring where we are not in rush, no skipping ahead, just watching each layer build and transform into something so meaningful. This Love is in the Air stamp set is such a sweet and beautiful set. This is only the beginning of what we are going to create with it. If you enjoy this relaxing style video, let me know in the comments below. I always love hearing whether you colored along with me or simply sat back and enjoyed the process. And don't forget, this is part one of the series. There will be a part two where we will be creating another card using the same stamp set but different images, different sentiments. So make sure you're subscribed and you have your notifications turned on so you don't miss out on anything. Now, all the supplies that I used here, including the stamp set, also the entire heart to heart release, the cardstocks, the colors, I will leave links to all of that in the description box below. Please know that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you so much for being here, for spending your creative time with me, and for making this little corner such a joyful space. Until next time, keep crafting, keep coloring, and most importantly, have fun.